You must analyze them carefully, conduct deep research, and create a highly engaging script. Make sure to use 70% information from the reference script and the remaining information from your own deep research. Do not include any information, events, or details that fall outside the scope of the provided video topic. Always write the provided video topic before starting the script. Begin the script with a specific incident directly related to the video topic, including relevant historical context, dates, and timelines where appropriate. The opening should immediately create curiosity, urgency, and emotional engagement. The script should be 4,150 words long, with a maximum variation of only plus 20 words. Cover all essential details, including surprising and shocking facts that make the story more interesting and curiosity-driven. Write the script in a plain format without any headings, subheadings, bullet points, or numbered points. Create a sense of panic and urgency at the beginning to make the story more compelling and intriguing. Ensure the script remains interesting, engaging, and retains audience attention throughout. Show more strategized direct script composition and word count verification approach. Strategized direct script composition and word count verification approach. Good for 159 words within range. Here's the script. Video topic: Discover Planet Earth. Best places in the world. On July 24th, 1911, an American explorer named Hiram Bingham climbed through thick cloud forest above the Urubamba River in Peru, chasing rumors of a lost Inca city that local farmers whispered about but refused to fully explain. He had no idea what he was about to find. Within hours, he stumbled onto stone walls swallowed by centuries of vines, entire temples buried under jungle growth, and a citadel so perfectly hidden in the Andes that the Spanish conquistadors never found it, never looted it, and never destroyed it. That place was Machu Picchu, and its rediscovery changed the way the entire world thought about travel. Suddenly, people realized that our planet was still full of secrets, places so remarkable they felt almost impossible, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to go looking. That single expedition sparked a wave of global curiosity that never really stopped. Today, more than a century later, over 1 billion tourists cross borders every single year, chasing that same feeling Bingham must have felt when he first saw those terraces rising out of the fog. But here is the urgent part. Many of the destinations that made this planet famous are changing fast. Glaciers are retreating, coral reefs are bleaching, ancient ruins are eroding under the weight of millions of visitors, and some of the most breathtaking places on Earth may not look the same in 20 years. So before that window closes, let's take a journey through some of the most unforgettable travel experiences our planet has to offer, from the ancient streets of Cusco to the historic shores of Cape Town, and understand exactly why these places demand to be seen now rather than someday. Let's start where the story began, high in the Peruvian Andes. Machu Picchu was built in the 15th century as a private estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti, and it stood abandoned for nearly 400 years before Bingham's discovery. Standing at the Guardian's house, you get the postcard view of the entire citadel spread across the ridge. Walk deeper, and you reach the Intihuatana stone, believed to have functioned as a solar calendar for the Incas. The Temple of the Sun shows off some of the most refined stonework anywhere in the empire, curved and polished without a single drop of mortar. Nearby, the Temple of the Three Windows opens onto the sacred plaza, its trapezoid frames facing the mountains beyond. Down the terraced slopes, you can see exactly how the Incas grew crops on near-vertical land while preventing the entire mountainside from washing away. A narrow trail leads to the Inca Bridge, a gap in the cliff path once crossed only with wooden logs that could be pulled away to stop invaders. For something otherworldly, the Temple of the Condor uses natural rock formations, shaped to resemble a bird, the Incas believed connected the world of the living to the world above. From the Andes, travel north into Peru's old imperial capital, Cusco, once the beating heart of the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Plaza de Armas has been the city's central gathering point for centuries, framed by the Cusco Cathedral and the Church of the Society of Jesus, both built directly on top of Inca foundations. Coricancha, the Temple of the Sun, reveals just how advanced Inca engineering really was. Up on the hill, Sacsayhuaman stuns visitors with stone blocks weighing over 100 tons, cut and fitted so precisely that no mortar was ever needed, and no earthquake in 500 years has managed to knock them loose. Down in the San Blas neighborhood, cobblestone alleys wind past small workshops and galleries, while San Pedro Market fills the air with the smell of fresh bread and roasted corn. Along Hatun Rumiok Street, the 12-angled stone remains one of the most photographed details in South America. A single block cut with such mathematical precision, it has become a symbol of Inca craftsmanship itself. Now travel across the Atlantic to Morocco, where the town of Chefchaouen hides in the Rif Mountains, painted almost entirely in shades of blue. Nobody agrees on exactly why the town turned blue. Some say it was Jewish refugees in the 1930s who believed the color represented the sky and reminded people of heaven. Others say it simply repels mosquitoes. Either way, walking through the Medina feels like wandering inside a dream, with every wall, staircase, and doorway blending into the next shade of indigo. Just outside the eastern gate, a short walk leads to Ras El Ma, a small waterfall, and further up a hillside path brings you to the Spanish Mosque for one of the best sunset views in the country. From there, head south to Marrakesh, the Red City, named for its clay walls that glow rose gold at sunset. At the center of the old Medina sits Jama El Fanaya, a square that has functioned as a marketplace and gathering point for locals for nearly 1,000 years, filled by evening with musicians, storytellers, and food stalls sending smoke into the night sky. Nearby, the Bahia Palace and the Saidian tombs, hidden for centuries and only rediscovered in 1917, reveal the scale of Moroccan royal history. Head north into Europe, and you reach Tallinn, Estonia's capital, where the medieval old town called Vanillin remains one of the best preserved in the entire continent. Toompea Hill overlooks the rooftops, crowned by the black domes of Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. Down in Town Hall Square, the pharmacy known as Reapteek has been serving customers since 1422, making it one of the oldest continuously operating pharmacies on Earth. Not far away in Norway, the city of Tromsø sits above the Arctic Circle and has earned the nickname the Gateway to the Arctic. Its wooden cathedral is the largest of its kind in northern Europe. And across the bridge, the Arctic Cathedral glows through a wall of stained glass. When night falls here, especially between September and March, the sky can erupt into the green and purple ribbons of the Aurora Borealis, a sight that pulls travelers from every corner of the globe. The Mediterranean holds its own treasures. Sardinia, Italy's second largest island, carries traditions and even a language distinct from the mainland. Grotta di Nettuno, or Neptune's Grotto, can only be reached by boat or by descending hundreds of steps carved directly into a coastal cliff. Inland, Sunaraxi di Barumini preserves stone towers built by the island's prehistoric Nuragic civilization more than 3,000 years ago, among the oldest standing structures in Europe. Not far across the sea in Spain sits the Alhambra in Granada, a palace and fortress complex whose name literally means the Red Fortress. Its Nasrid palaces contain some of the most intricate plasterwork and tile mosaics ever created, while the Court of the Lions holds a marble fountain supported by 12 carved stone lions, a design so advanced for its era that historians still study how its water system functioned without modern pumps. In northern Italy, Lake Como stretches out in the shape of an upside-down Y, with the town of Bellagio sitting exactly where its three branches meet, earning it the nickname the Pearl of Lake Como. Across the water, the quieter village of Varenna offers the Passeggiata degli Innamorati, the Walk of Lovers, tracing the shoreline from the ferry dock into the Old Town. Back across the Atlantic, the American Southwest hides Antelope Canyon on Navajo Nation land, a sacred site the Navajo call Tse Bighanilini, meaning the place where water runs through rocks. Between late spring and early autumn, beams of sunlight break through narrow openings in the sandstone ceiling and hit the canyon floor in a phenomenon so striking that photographs of it have circulated the globe for decades. Not far away, Yosemite National Park protects some of the tallest granite walls on the planet, including El Capitan and Half Dome, along with the Mariposa Grove, home to giant sequoias that have stood since before the Roman Empire existed, some estimated at nearly 3,000 years old. The Pacific holds its own wonders. Hawaii's island of Kauai, the oldest of the main Hawaiian islands, protects the roadless Nepali coast, while Waimea Canyon carves red and green cliffs so dramatic that Mark Twain reportedly called it the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. Across the ocean in New Zealand, Aoraki Mount Cook rises as the country's tallest peak, and nearby the Tasman Glacier, the largest in New Zealand, empties into a lake filled with drifting icebergs. Vatican City, the smallest sovereign nation on Earth, holds some of the most significant art in human history. Inside St. Peter's Basilica, built above what is believed to be the tomb of St. Peter himself, Michelangelo's Pietà captures grief with astonishing detail. Deep inside the Vatican museums, the Sistine Chapel ceiling, painted by Michelangelo between 1508 and 1512, still draws millions of visitors every year who crane their necks to see the moment where the hands of God and Adam nearly touch. Belgium's Bruges earned the nickname the Venice of the North for its network of quiet canals, its medieval center completely unchanged since the Middle Ages and protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Belfry of Bruges has watched over Market Square since the 13th century, once a symbol of the city's independence and civic pride. In the Seychelles, Praslin Island protects the Vallée de Mai, often called the original Garden of Eden, home to the coco de mer, a palm that produces the largest seed of any plant on Earth and grows naturally in only 2 places on the planet. Amsterdam's Canal Ring, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, curves around a city shaped entirely by water and engineering. The Anne Frank House preserves the rooms where a Jewish family hid for over 2 years during the Nazi occupation, a place that turns history into something you can physically walk through and feel. The Rijksmuseum holds Rembrandt's The Night Watch, while the Van Gogh Museum traces the artist's evolution from dark early works to the vivid brushstrokes of sunflowers. Portugal's Porto sits along the Douro River, its Ribeira district a UNESCO site of tightly packed, colorfully painted houses. The Dom Luís I Bridge connects it to Vila Nova de Gaia, home to the cellars where port wine has aged for centuries. São Bento railway station is covered floor to ceiling in roughly 20,000 hand-painted blue and white azulejo tiles, depicting scenes from Portuguese history. Thailand's Chiang Mai, once the capital of the ancient Lana Kingdom, is anchored by Wat Phra That Doi Suthep, a golden temple sitting high on a mountain overlooking the entire valley. Nearby, the so-called sticky waterfalls at Bua Thong have a mineral coating that actually allows visitors to walk straight up the flowing water without slipping. Bosnia and Herzegovina's city of Mostar centers on Stari Most, the old bridge, originally built in the 16th century by the Ottomans, destroyed by shelling during the war in 1993, and painstakingly rebuilt using original techniques, and reopened in 2004 as a symbol of reconciliation. Locals still dive from its arch into the Neretva River below, a tradition stretching back over 4 centuries. Far to the north, the Norwegian archipelago of Svalbard hosts Longyearbyen, the northernmost town on Earth with more than 1,000 residents. Just outside town, the global seed vault preserves millions of crop seeds from nearly every country on the planet inside permafrost, built as a backup in case of global catastrophe. Nearby, the abandoned Soviet town of Pyramiden was evacuated in 1998 and remains frozen in time, complete with an untouched statue of Lenin still standing in the town square. South America's Buenos Aires blends European architecture with Latin passion. The Obelisco stands at the center of Avenida 9 de Julio, one of the widest avenues on the planet. La Boca's Caminito Street bursts with houses painted in bright blues, yellows, and reds, originally repainted using leftover ship paint by dock workers who could not afford anything else. In Tanzania, the Serengeti hosts the Great Migration, when more than 1 million wildebeest and hundreds of thousands of zebra cross crocodile-filled rivers each year in one of the largest and most dangerous animal migrations left on Earth, a cycle that has repeated itself for tens of thousands of years. Laos offers the quiet town of Luang Prabang, where every morning before sunrise, lines of Buddhist monks walk barefoot through the streets to receive alms in a tradition called Tak Bat that dates back to the 14th century. The Galápagos Islands, formed where 3 tectonic plates meet, inspired Charles Darwin's theory of evolution after his visit in 1835. Giant tortoises, some living well past 100 years old, still roam Santa Cruz Island today, alongside marine iguanas found nowhere else on the planet. Australia's Whitsunday Islands hold Whitehaven Beach, made of sand that is roughly 98% pure silica, so fine it never gets hot underfoot, even in tropical heat, and so bright it can be seen shimmering from space in satellite photographs. Montenegro's Bay of Kotor twists between steep mountains and the Adriatic Sea, climbing the ancient city walls up to St. John's Fortress rewards travelers with sweeping views over terracotta rooftops, while just offshore, the tiny artificial island of Our Lady of the Rocks was built up over centuries by sailors who dropped stones into the sea after every safe return from a voyage. Slovenia's Soča Valley runs the color of liquid emerald, a hue caused by limestone deposits in the riverbed, and remains one of the last pristine alpine rivers left in Europe, drawing kayakers and rafters from across the continent. Portugal's Madeira Island, nicknamed the Pearl of the Atlantic, stays warm year-round. Its ancient laurel forest, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has existed largely unchanged for millions of years, while its Levada trails follow centuries-old irrigation channels through the mountains. Vietnam's Hanoi packs 1,000 years of history into its old quarter, where 36 streets were each once dedicated to a single craft or trade. The Temple of Literature, founded in 1070, became the country's first national university and still honors Confucius today. Thailand's Phuket balances lively beaches like Patong with a preserved Sino-Portuguese architecture of Phuket Old Town, a legacy of Chinese immigrants who arrived to work the island's tin mines in the 19th century. South Africa's Kruger National Park spans nearly 5 million acres, making it one of the largest wildlife reserves on the planet, home to the so-called Big Five: lions, leopards, elephants, rhinos, and buffalo, all roaming freely across open grassland. The French island of Réunion in the Indian Ocean holds Piton de la Fournaise, one of the most active volcanoes on Earth, along with 3 massive natural amphitheaters called cirques, carved out by ancient volcanic collapse. Georgia's capital, Tbilisi, sits along the Mitkvari River, its Abanotubani district famous for centuries-old sulfur bathhouses fed by natural hot springs beneath the city, a ritual locals still practice today, exactly as it was done hundreds of years ago. Kazakhstan's Almaty rests beneath the Tian Shan Mountains, home to Zenkov Cathedral, a wooden church built in the early 1900s entirely without a single nail, and somehow still standing, after surviving a major earthquake in 1911 that flattened much of the surrounding city. Bolivia's Salar de Uyuni is the largest salt flat on Earth, formed from prehistoric lakes that dried up thousands of years ago. During the wet season, a thin layer of rainwater transforms the entire plain into what many call the largest natural mirror in the world, a place so reflective that the horizon seems to disappear entirely. Scotland's Edinburgh divides into the medieval Old Town and the elegant Georgian New Town, together forming a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Edinburgh Castle has guarded the city from atop Castle Rock for roughly 900 years, while Arthur's Seat, an extinct volcano, offers panoramic views just a short climb from the city center. Slovenia's lake-bled centers on a tiny island reached only by traditional wooden pletna boats, where visitors climb 99 stone steps to reach a church said to grant wishes to anyone who can ring its bell. Greece's Athens holds the Acropolis, crowned by the Parthenon, a temple completed in 438 BCE that remains one of the most studied buildings in architectural history. Its columns subtly curve to correct for optical illusions the human eye would otherwise perceive as distortion. Tanzania's Zanzibar mixes Swahili, Arab, Indian, and European influence throughout Stone Town, a UNESCO site where the old slave market has been transformed into a memorial and cathedral honoring those who suffered there during the era of the East African slave trade. Portugal's Azores, 9 volcanic islands scattered across the North Atlantic, hold Lagoa das Sete Cidades, twin crater lakes, one blue and one green, ringed by legend claiming they formed from the tears of 2 lovers forbidden to be together. Colombia's Cocora Valley, near the town of Salento, protects the wax palm, the tallest palm species on Earth, and Colombia's national tree, some growing over 60 meters into the clouds. Norway's Lofoten Islands rise sharply from the sea, their fishing villages like Rain and Hamnøy, postcard perfect with red cabins built directly over the water, a tradition of fishermen's shelters dating back centuries. Indonesia's Raja Ampat, meaning the Four Kings, sits at the heart of what marine biologists call the Coral Triangle, home to more fish species per square mile than almost anywhere else on the planet. Spain's Barcelona showcases the unfinished genius of architect Antoni Gaudí. The Basilica de la Sagrada Familia, under construction since 1882, is expected to finally reach completion sometime around 2026, making it one of the longest ongoing building projects in modern history. Canada's Vancouver wraps Stanley Park around its downtown core, where indigenous totem poles at Brockton Point tell stories carved by First Nations artists, connecting visitors to thousands of years of local history. India's Taj Mahal, completed around 1653, was built by Emperor Shah Jahan as a mausoleum for his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died during childbirth. Its perfectly symmetrical white marble facade shifts color throughout the day, glowing pink at dawn, white at midday, and golden under moonlight. Austria's Vienna centers on Schönbrunn Palace, the former summer residence of the Habsburg dynasty, and Vienna's zoo on the same grounds holds the title of the oldest continuously operating zoo in the world, founded in 1752. Nepal's Kathmandu Valley holds Buddhanath Stupa, one of the largest spherical stupas on Earth, where pilgrims walk clockwise spinning prayer wheels beneath eyes painted on all 4 sides, representing Buddhist wisdom and compassion. Colombia's Cartagena protects its walled old town behind fortifications built by the Spanish across the 16th and 17th centuries, specifically to defend against pirate attacks, walls so thick they still stand largely intact after 400 years. Morocco's Fez holds Al Qarawiyyin, founded in 859 CE and recognized by UNESCO and Guinness World Records as the oldest continuously operating university on the planet, predating Oxford by roughly 3 centuries. The United Arab Emirates built Dubai around the Burj Khalifa, which at 828 meters remains the tallest building humans have ever constructed, its record still unbroken since completion in 2010. Italy's Amalfi Coast winds along cliffside towns like Positano and Ravello, its emerald grotto near Conca dei Marini glowing an otherworldly green as sunlight filters through an underwater opening into the cave. Hungary's Budapest splits into hilly Buda and flat Pest, joined by the chain bridge across the Danube. The Hungarian Parliament building, completed in 1904, remains one of the largest legislative buildings in the world. Australia's Sydney is home to the Sydney Opera House, whose sail-shaped roof took engineers over a decade to figure out how to actually build, finally opening in 1973, 14 years behind its original schedule and over 1,000% over its initial budget. The Czech Republic's Prague protects its medieval astronomical clock, installed in 1410, making it the oldest astronomical clock in the world still operating today. Oman's Jebel Shams, nicknamed the Grand Canyon of Arabia, plunges nearly 1,000 meters into the earth, while nearby Wadi Shab requires a short swim through a narrow gorge to reach a hidden waterfall inside a cave. Brazil's Rio de Janeiro is watched over by Christ the Redeemer, completed in 1931 and standing 38 meters tall atop Corcovado Mountain, a statue now recognized as one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Cuba's Havana freezes American cars from the 1950s in time along its streets, a side effect of the decades-long United States trade embargo that made importing new vehicles nearly impossible. Jordan's Petra, carved directly into rose-red sandstone cliffs, served as the capital of the Nabatean kingdom more than 2,000 years ago and remained essentially unknown to the Western world until a Swiss explorer named Johann Ludwig Burckhardt disguised himself as a local traveler to enter the site in 1812. Croatia's Dubrovnik, nicknamed the Pearl of the Adriatic, wraps its entire old town in nearly 2 kilometers of intact medieval walls, a fortification so well preserved it has been used as a filming location for major fantasy television productions. South Africa's Cape Town sits beneath Table Mountain, one of the oldest mountains on Earth, formed roughly 600 million years ago, older than the continents as we know them today. South Korea's Seoul balances the 500-year-old Gyeongbokgung Palace against the neon energy of Myeongdong, a district that transforms into one of the busiest shopping and street food destinations in all of Asia after dark. Vietnam's Hoi An glows each month during its Lantern Festival, when the town switches off electric lighting and fills its streets with the warm glow of silk lanterns, a tradition that has continued for centuries. Portugal's Lisbon built the Belém Tower in the early 16th century to defend the mouth of the Tagus River, and nearby, Jeronimos Monastery holds the tomb of explorer Vasco da Gama, who set sail from this very city to find a sea route to India. Namibia's Namib Desert is considered the oldest desert on Earth, believed to have existed in some form for at least 55 million years, home to the ghost town of Kolmanskap, slowly being swallowed by sand since diamond mining stopped there in the 1950s. New Zealand's Queenstown earned its reputation as the adventure capital of the world after the Kawarau Bridge became home to the first commercial bungee jump operation in 1988, an activity that has since spread to nearly every continent. Iceland sits directly on the boundary of 2 tectonic plates, visible at Thingvellir National Park, where you can literally stand in the crack between North America and Europe. Its Blue Lagoon, a geothermal spa, was actually formed by accident, a byproduct of a nearby geothermal power plant that began operating in 1976. Turkey's Cappadocia formed its surreal fairy chimney rock formations from volcanic ash deposited millions of years ago, later carved by early Christians into entire underground cities like Derinkuyu, capable of sheltering as many as 20,000 people at once during times of invasion. New York City's Statue of Liberty, a gift from France dedicated in 1886, welcomed roughly 12 million immigrants who passed through nearby Ellis Island in search of a new life between 1892 and 1954. Greece's Santorini was shaped by one of the largest volcanic eruptions in recorded human history. Around 1600 BCE, an explosion so massive some historians believe it inspired the ancient legend of Atlantis. Canada's Banff National Park, established in 1885 as the country's first national park, protects Lake Louise, whose turquoise color comes from finely ground rock particles called glacial flour suspended in the meltwater. Italy's Venice was built on more than 100 small islands connected by over 400 bridges, a city slowly sinking at a rate of roughly 1 to 2 millimeters per year, making every visit a race against time. And finally, France's Paris, the City of Light, centers on the Eiffel Tower, originally built in 1889 as a temporary structure for the World's Fair and nearly torn down 20 years later before its usefulness as a radio transmission tower saved it from demolition. From a single rediscovered city in the Peruvian mountains to fairy chimneys in Turkey and sinking canals in Venice, our planet remains full of places that feel almost too extraordinary to be real. But many of them are changing faster than most people realize. Glaciers thinning, reefs fading, ancient stones wearing smooth under the weight of millions of footsteps. Hiram Bingham could never have imagined that his climb through the Andean cloud forest in 1911 would eventually inspire 1 billion people a year to go searching for their own version of that same discovery. The question now is simple. Which of these places will you go find before the world changes them forever? Want to be notified when Claude responds? Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double.